Good evening. Tonight we bring you breaking news that could reshape the global economic landscape for years to come. This weekend, President Donald Trump announced a sweeping 30% tariff on all goods imported from Mexico and the European Union, effective August 1, 2025. The announcement, made in a nationally televised address, sent immediate shockwaves through the international community. This marks a dramatic escalation in a trade conflict that's been simmering for months, with tensions now boiling over into open economic confrontation. The move has rattled international markets and left American businesses and consumers bracing for impact. Investors are watching nervously as uncertainty ripples through the financial sector, and families across the country are already wondering how this will affect their daily lives. In 2024, the U.S. imported over $600 billion in goods from the EU and another $500 billion from Mexico. Everything from cars to avocados could be affected. These tariffs will touch nearly every corner of the American economy, from grocery store shelves to car dealerships. A blanket 30% tariff means nearly every product from these partners will become more expensive, sending shockwaves through the economy. Economists warn that higher prices could lead to inflation, job losses, and a slowdown in economic growth. President Trump's announcement was direct and uncompromising, delivered via public letters to Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. The message was clear: the United States is prepared to defend its interests, no matter the cost. This isn't just a proposal, it's a firm declaration of intent. The administration has signaled that it will not back down, even in the face of international criticism. The administration's America First trade policy has entered a new, aggressive phase. Supporters say it's about protecting American jobs and industries, while critics warn of retaliation and global instability. Allies and adversaries alike are scrambling to respond before the August 1st deadline. Behind closed doors, diplomats are working overtime to negotiate, strategize, and prepare for what could be a prolonged standoff. The world is watching to see what comes next, as the stakes for the global economy have never been higher. This tariff didn't come out of nowhere. It's the latest move in a trade war President Trump reignited in April, rolling out threats and conditions to reshape global trade in America's favor. Initial threats caused market volatility and uncertainty, prompting a 90-day pause for negotiations. That pause, later extended, is now ending, hence the timing of this aggressive announcement. Trump's letters to Mexico and the EU made it clear. Negotiations during the pause didn't deliver what he wanted. For Mexico, he cited border security and cartel activity. For the EU, persistent trade deficits and non-reciprocal practices. The administration has also targeted Canada and Brazil with steep tariffs, signaling a strategy of maximum pressure on multiple fronts. By targeting major partners at once, the White House aims to force broad concessions and rewrite the rules of global trade. The world is bracing for a fundamental shift. At the core of Trump's strategy lies a bold and controversial vision for reshaping America's role in the global economy. This vision is encapsulated in his America First philosophy, a doctrine that prioritizes American workers, industries, and interests above all else. The administration argues that decades of unfair trade deals have led to massive U.S. trade deficits, shuttered factories, and millions of lost manufacturing jobs across the country. Tariffs in this context are framed as a powerful tool to correct this imbalance, protect American industries, and bring jobs back home to communities that have suffered from outsourcing. In his letter to the European Union, President Trump specifically cited persistent trade deficits and regulatory barriers that he claims put American companies at a disadvantage on the world stage. The proposed 30% tariff is designed to level the playing field, making it more difficult for foreign goods to undercut U.S. products and forcing trading partners to negotiate better terms for American exports. When it comes to Mexico, the administration's focus blends economic and security concerns, linking trade policy directly to border control, immigration enforcement, and anti-cartel efforts. The message is clear: cooperation on security and border issues is now a prerequisite for favorable trade relations with the United States. But there's a way out for foreign companies. Tariffs won't apply if they choose to manufacture their products within the United States, creating American jobs in the process. The ultimate goal is to incentivize investment, encourage companies to build new facilities, and spark job creation on American soil rather than overseas. For example, if a German automaker faces a 30% tax on imported vehicles, suddenly building a factory in Ohio or Michigan becomes a much more attractive option. The administration hopes these policies will not only boost the domestic economy, but also restore a sense of pride and security for American workers and their families. Mexico's response was diplomatic but firm. Officials called the tariff unfair, highlighting the deep economic integration between the two countries. Supply chains crossed the border multiple times. A blanket tariff disrupts both economies. Still, Mexico isn't walking away from talks. President Sheinbaum expressed hope for a deal before August 1st. Mexico's economy relies heavily on U.S. trade, so avoiding a trade war is crucial. Yet Sheinbaum emphasized national sovereignty. Mexico won't be dictated to. The government must balance standing up for its interests with pragmatic negotiation. A 30% tariff would devastate Mexican industries and jobs. Mexican negotiators are racing to show that cooperation is better than confrontation. The outcome will shape Mexico's economic future for years. The European Union responded swiftly and in unison, determined not to let the latest U.S. move go unanswered. President Ursula von der Leyen made it clear, the EU is open to negotiation, seeking a fair and balanced solution. But she also warned that Europe will take all necessary steps to defend its interests if talks break down, signaling a readiness to act decisively. Behind the scenes, the EU has drawn up a list of retaliatory tariffs targeting over $100 billion of iconic American goods, from soybeans and bourbon to Boeing planes and other major exports. These measures are designed to hit where it hurts most. European leaders, including France's Emmanuel Macron and Sweden's Ulf Kristersson, have publicly condemned the U.S. move, calling it unfair and unjustified. They pledged a unified, coordinated response, determined to show that Europe stands together. Acting as a single bloc gives the EU significant leverage in these high-stakes negotiations, amplifying its voice on the world stage. The message is clear. Europe wants dialogue, but it won't be bullied or pressured into an unfavorable deal. The EU is prepared to defend its economic interests. The EU's strategy is to use the credible threat of countermeasures to bring the US back to the negotiating table, hoping to avoid escalation but ready for it if necessary. Both sides know that a full-blown trade war would be mutually destructive, threatening jobs, businesses, and economic growth on both continents. US tariffs would hit European manufacturers hard, especially in the automotive and steel sectors, putting thousands of jobs at risk. Meanwhile, EU retaliation would target key American sectors, agriculture, spirits, and aviation, impacting farmers, distillers, and major corporations alike. This standoff is more than just about tariffs. It's a test of diplomatic skill, political will, and the ability to find common ground under pressure. The next few weeks will be critical, as negotiators race against the clock to determine whether compromise or confrontation will prevail. The stakes couldn't be higher, for economies, for jobs, and for the future of transatlantic relations. Not everyone in the U.S. supports the tariffs. Many Democrats and business leaders call them a tax on American consumers, warning that higher costs will hit families and small businesses hardest. Congressman Brad Schneider argues the tariffs will raise prices, slow investment, and hurt local economies. Small businesses with less flexibility than multinationals are especially vulnerable. Critics say the tariffs create instability and could cost American jobs, not save them. Higher costs for raw materials make U.S. manufacturers less competitive, risking layoffs and closures. There's also fear of a retaliatory spiral. If Mexico or the EU respond, Trump has threatened even higher tariffs. For farmers and manufacturers who rely on exports, losing access to key markets could be devastating. Many urge negotiation over confrontation, warning of severe consequences for workers and consumers. Tariffs aren't just political, they hit your wallet. The U.S. imports most of its fresh produce from Mexico, avocados, tomatoes, berries, and more. A 30% tariff means higher prices at the grocery store. A $4 bag of avocados could soon cost over $5. These increases add up, straining household budgets, especially for families on fixed incomes. The impact goes beyond food. The EU is a major source of cars, BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen. A 30% tariff could push a $40,000 car to over $50,000, making European cars unaffordable for many. Even American-made cars could get pricier as competition drops. Tariffs also hit parts and materials used by U.S. factories, steel from Germany, electronics from Mexico. Higher input costs force companies to choose, absorb the loss or raise prices. Either way, American industries and consumers pay the price. Tariffs ripple through the economy, affecting everything from groceries to jobs. The costs are real and immediate. The August 1st deadline is fast approaching. It's a critical window for negotiators to avert a damaging trade war. If no deal is reached, 30% tariffs on Mexican and EU goods kick in, triggering immediate price hikes and likely retaliation. A tit-for-tat trade war would hurt exporters, consumers, and markets on all sides. The best hope is that deadline pressure forces compromise, perhaps new security cooperation from Mexico or trade concessions from the EU. A deal would stabilize markets and bring relief to businesses and families. The outcome will shape global trade and the financial well-being of millions. As the world watches, the stakes couldn't be higher.